Joined now by the aforementioned Trent Green. Trent, of course, played in the NFL and was a good one. Analyst, NFL on CBS. He jumps on our show on Tops every Sunday as well. Monday quarterback show with Shine and Rich Gannon. What's happening there, Trent? Happy New Year, buddy. How are you?
Hey, Happy New Year. Going well, going well.
Nice. I can't wait to hear your answer. And it might be a little, they tell you, when you do this in school, don't ask 40-second questions. It's not going to be 40 seconds, but I have to at least set this up properly so you get the entire context of what we need, because I want the perfect answer out of you. So.
All right, no pressure.
Not at all, because I see you do it every week, so I expect a good one, and here it is.
Right.
So with Super Bowl 51, even though I think the term legacy is a little corny and it's kind of low-hanging fruit after a while, but I do think this year is unique in the sense that there's a lot of players, by winning the Super Bowl, can really radically alter how they're perceived. Whether it's Eli or Ben going from 2 to 3, which is a monstrous jump, as you know. Whether it's McCarthy or Mike Tomlin or Pete Carroll going from 1 to 2, Russell Wilson, guy like Andy Reid who's got none. I mean, we could do this all day. There's a lot of names to throw out there. I want to know from Trent Green, which player or coach or even owner, if you want to throw that in there for Jerry, do you think would benefit the most perceptually by winning the Super Bowl next month in Houston? Who is it?
Oh, wow. Let's see. Player and coach. Let's start with player.
Or coach.
Okay, let's start with player. I'd say player-wise, you mentioned some great names there. So Roethlisberger and Eli getting to that third, even with Aaron Rodgers and Wilson trying to go from 1 to 2.
Mm-hmm.
But probably the guy that and I don't want to be cliche, but Tom Brady, if you all of a sudden can get that fifth, nobody's done that. No starting quarterback has ever done that. And so I think when you're talking legacy and legends of the game, not that Tom needs that to solidify anything in his career based on what he's been able to do up until this point, and the fact that he's 39 and he's still playing at an incredibly high level, that part is impressive in its own. But if he was able to get 5 championships, I think you really, and I've always had Joe Montana as my top number one guy, just because of what he did throughout his entire career, his 4-0 in the Super Bowls, his performances in those Super Bowls. But if you can all of a sudden be a 5-time Super Bowl champion, I think from a legacy standpoint, he would have the most to gain from that standpoint.
It's an interesting answer.
What about coaches? We talked about Andy Reid a little bit because Andy is one of the best coaches that doesn't get the respect that he probably deserves. His win percentage in Kansas City is 67%. He's double-digit wins for 3 of his 4 years there. He's always in the postseason, but he hasn't gotten over that hump yet. And I think the only way he will, because he's not a superstar. He's not like outgoing and loud and look at me as a head coach like some of these other ones are. So we kind of disrespect him.
Yeah, I think he ghe overlooked a lot when you start talking about the great coaches. When you start talking about a Marty Schottenheimer, that never won a Super Bowl, and but he has all the wins and what he was able to do throughout his career. So Andy Reid, that he has been to a Super Bowl, doesn't have that championship yet. So I think from a championship standpoint, from a legacy standpoint, that would be a good one. You guys mentioned McCarthy trying to get a second one. Pete Carroll, obviously. Belichick obviously is legendary and what he did as a coordinator and as a head coach. Probably the guy that's been under the most heat recently would be Tomlin, just because of what was said about him not being Terry Bradshaw coming out and saying he didn't think of him as a head coach, didn't think of him as a coach. So I would think Tomlin, if he's able to get his second, would maybe quiet some of the criticism that he's received recently. But I would put Andy Reid and Tomlin probably in that same category, just because of the recent stuff for Tomlin, but then for Reid just because of his long-term legacy and the fact that he would finally get one after, now he's in the top 10 all time in terms of wins. So this would help solidify his place.
Yeah, 12 seasons of making the playoffs out of 18. That's pretty damn impressive. Let's get to some of the wild card games this weekend, Trent. The Oakland Raiders take on the Houston Texans in Texas. It is a quarterback disaster from both teams, it feels like. How can Connor Cook be successful in this matchup?
Well, I think the thing that he's going to have to do is not try and do too much. I think as a young guy, you feel that, first time getting a start happens to be in a playoff game, happens to be on the road, and happens to be against the number one defense in the National Football League. So those are a lot of things that you're going up against. But based on everything I've heard about him and the way that he carries himself, he had a lot of success in college. He carries himself very confidently. He stepped in and played well at Denver last week, 14 to 21, 150 yards. Had the touchdown, did have the interception, but I think the fact that he was able to get some playing time last week against that type of defense, I think helps him for this week. I do think that Romeo Crennel and the defense is going to have some things, dialed up for him. Being a rookie guy, they want to give him some confusing looks. He obviously isn't going to see the field the same way that Derek Carr could, and so how quickly does he get rid of the ball? The offensive line had the luxury of Derek Carr getting rid of the ball fast. They only gave up 18 sacks on the season. Some of that was because of Derek. Some of that's because that's a really good offensive line. So they're going to have to, if it's possible to take their game to an even higher level, I think the offensive line needs to do that to try and take some of the pressure off Connor Cook, because he is going to have to perform well. And the key for him is if he can not turn the ball over, if they can get the running game going with Richard and with Latavius Murray, if they're able to get some things going there and take that pressure off him. And then if they're able to put heat on Osweiler, Osweiler has shown this season that he's going to throw the interception or make the big mistake. If they can get him to do that, then all of a sudden you're in position to win the football game.
I'm talking to Trent Green with us here on Tiki and Tierney, CBS Sports NFL Analyst, former quarterback. You see him all the time on the network, of course, throughout the season. NFL Monday quarterback on CBS Sports Network. And, of course, we have the Wildcard game Sunday between the Steelers and the Dolphins on CBS. So coverage at 12 on the NFL Today. All right, let's eliminate the Texans and the Raiders for a moment here, because to me a 3.5 point spread doesn't represent an upset at all, and Vegas views it the same way. Of the bigger spreads, and Pittsburgh's laying 10 points. Dolphins are obviously under in a tough spot without Ryan Tannehill. Even with Tannehill, it would be challenging. Detroit is a touchdown dog to Seattle. Best chance of a big upset this weekend. Where does it lie, Trent?
I would say of all these games, first off, I think all four home teams are going to win. But if I was going to pick an upset, I would say the one that's probably in best position to do it would be the Giants. And I know that goes against the grain because of how well the Packers have played in the last month and a half, how great Aaron Rodgers has been in the last month and a half. But the Giants with Eli Manning, they have success going on the road to Green Bay, getting tough wins in that environment. Steve Spagnuolo, that defense is cranked up. They've been playing better this last half of the season. That would be, of the four games, I think that's the one where we could see an upset by the visiting team.
Trent, good stuff, man. Enjoy the games. Have a good weekend. We'll talk to you soon, buddy. Thank you.
All right. I appreciate it, guys. Good talking to you.